Welcome everybody to My Social Identity at Work. It is one of the workshops that we're doing as part of Business Career Week. We are thrilled to be able to present sessions that are based on questions that students have asked of us with regard to their careers, their development, and then their positions when they are working at companies. So the focus of today's session is how to find an inclusive workplace environment where we feel comfortable bringing our whole selves to work and our identities to work. And I'm thrilled to be able to say that we are partnering with a student organization, Yukon Blue. Yukon Blue is a fairly new organization that we're excited to share with employers and with other students that seeks to empower and advance underrepresented BIPOC students through various distinguished opportunities and creating a strong community for minority students that are interested in business. Students across all majors can join Yukon Blue. It's an organization that is designed for students to help students, and then making the connections with employers is the great thing that we can do in a session like today. So as you can see on your screen, we are joined by an absolutely wonderful team from Synchrony. Sharon Tenney is the University Relations Specialist who's going to kick off our session today and help introduce the team who's joining us. And we really want this to be a session that talks about, who we are and who we are at work, who we are at home. We are recording this session, so if anybody's joining us now, if you've got any questions that you want to ask and you want to do that privately, you can put that in the chat. We can ask the question without any identity. We can also pause recording if we need to, but we really want to be able to make this an interactive session. So I very much appreciate everybody joining us. Thank you to the Business Career Development team, who I'm sure will have questions as we're going through this as well. And Shannon, I'm going to welcome you to get started and let you kick it off.
All right. Thanks so much, Kathy. Happy to be here with everyone today, and thank you for having us. As Kathy had mentioned, we are Synchrony, and we're excited to be here with you and discussing this topic, and also share with you a little bit about ourselves and our own career journey and how we can help you in your journey as you move forward through your education and look for that first big job after graduation. I'm here with a few of my colleagues that will introduce themselves throughout our presentation today. Representative of our African American Network, Women's Network, and LGBT Plus Network. So just to give you a brief understanding of who we are at Synchrony, we are a premier consumer financial services company. And what that means is we offer a variety of different products and services to consumers, both directly as Synchrony and then also through our retail partners. So many of you may be working with Synchrony as a consumer and not necessarily have realized it if you're utilizing some of our products that are offered through our retail partners. For instance, we're one of the largest providers of private label credit cards here in the U.S. based on purchase volume. And we partner with big companies like TJ Maxx, Dick's Sporting Goods, American Eagle, in offering their store credit card. So when you go to that store and they ask at the counter if you'd like to sign up for a credit card today, or if you use their credit card, if you're already a member, you're actually working with Synchrony. We're the financial institution behind that line of credit. We approve your application for that credit card. We create the loyalty program and the marketing campaigns behind that card. And then we also continue to work with you when you're paying your bill or have questions about your account through our customer service channels. So we're working with 65 million customers across nationwide with these different products that we offer through credit cards and financing plans with a variety of retailers, and also in the healthcare space with dentists, chiropractors, veterinarians, and offering additional financing for some of those supplemental services that you may need that are not covered through your basic health insurance plan. We also have an award-winning bank. Synchrony has an online banking institution that is involved in savings plans. So we offer your typical savings account option with high yield interest rates, but we also have CDs, IRAs, money market accounts that anyone can sign up for to help in reaching those savings goals that you may have for future plans. So we've been around for quite some time, but we have our headquarters located in Stamford, Connecticut, not too far from the store's campus. And we have students that join us in a variety of different programs, 10 to be exact, that work with us in our internship during the summer, but then also in our full-time business leadership program as they start to really get in depth in their career and learn more about what it is that they would like to do long-term within our organization. And as a part of our company, Synchrony is really proud to support and to also share our diversity networks. And I'm going to pass the microphone over to Ashley Peterson that can tell a little bit more about our networks and their mission within our organization.
Can I just stop you for 1 second? Because I just want to introduce Melvin, who's the president of Yukon Blue, who was able to join us. So Melvin, I'm not sure if you were on for the first couple minutes, but if you want to just say hi to the team. We've got you on mute. All right, I threw him under the bus there for a minute, caught him off guard. So Melvin, when you can reach out through chat when you've got a chance to say hello. Okay, go ahead, Ashley, sorry.
No worries at all. Hi, everyone. Excited to join today. As Shannon said, I'll take a moment to talk a little bit about our diversity networks, or what you may hear at other organizations as employee resource groups, or ERGs. But to quickly introduce myself, I currently lead our business leadership program here at Synchrony, and previous to that, spent a couple of years in our equity, diversity, inclusion, and citizenship office. So as you can imagine, being there from around 2020 to 2022, we have done a lot of work as an organization to sit at the table with our leadership and really think about how are we creating a safe space for all of our employees, as so many different things happened around society during or being deep in the pandemic. So I wanted to just share a quick note around, really how our networks came to be and really how they operate before we pass over to a couple of our other guests that will go a little bit deeper to paint the picture of their specific networks and what they work on. But as you see, our 8 diversity networks really show the span of the employee or the employees that we have here at Synchrony. So when you think about race, ethnicity, background, identity, we have done the work to really understand who sits within Synchrony and really what is most important for creating those communities for them. And 2 specific examples within this list of 8 is that at the onset of Synchrony becoming a company, we found the opportunity to add both the People with Disabilities Network as well as the Native American Network. So the more that we looked at who sat out in our Synchrony ranks, it was important for us to make sure we were creating that community for everyone. And when we think of how our networks really drive the day-to-day of really keeping us in tune with society, they're all 100% employee driven, where we have our employees doing this above their day jobs to really listen out to what's needed for their community. So for example, and I'll speak to African American Network Plus as my primary example, I spent multiple years leading our HBCU recruiting strategy, and even more recent, helping the AAN Plus in how we can all lead open conversations related to everything that was going on post George Floyd. So when we think of George Floyd's murder, that really sparked a lot of conversations across the world. And within Synchrony, it was really important for us to think back of our culture being transparent and caring and honest. And from that time, we had a few different initiatives that rose that really allowed us as a company to bring everyone to the table, get to understand what's going on around us, but also how can we take action. And one area that I wanted to call out specifically is a group that grew to about the size and stays at the size today of about 600 Synchrony employees, called Women Confronting Racism. Now, Women Confronting Racism is something that was really the brainchild of our women's network and our African American Plus network, that, as we were having these transparent conversations about race, how do we create those ongoing spaces so that the conversation doesn't end here and didn't end, when the moment ended? And for us, that group has really risen to the occasion to do a few things. So one, just keeping a pulse out on the organization of what people were thinking, what questions were out there, what we needed to do and provide as an employer. So they actually work directly with our office to better understand what resources we have, what conversations we should be having, and really how we can help employees to even go down to speaking with their kids about race. So they have really done a lot of great work to ensure that from, the employees that sit into our office to our communities to our families really had what they needed to support all of these great conversations. And as we evolved over time and we think about the various the news breaks or things that were happening in various communities, such as Stop Asian AAPI Hate, right? So our APEN Plus network, or the Asian Professional Engagement Network, they stood up very similar to African American Network and began to host broader conversations with our entire organization, leadership included, to just say, here's what's going on in our community and here's how you can help. It really gave a voice to the network. It gave a voice to the employees, a voice to their families, to say that Synchrony really does create that safe space to have your authentic self out at all times, and really making sure that you are supported, not just from those in your community, but for those that are in the broader organization, just looking to learn and looking to help. And I think that this has just continued to help us lean in as a business and make sure that our employees come to work every day, whether, more than likely they are in their home office like I am today, and know that when they're on their computer, that the person that they're talking to or the meeting that they're on is being thoughtful of everything that's going out in our various diverse communities. So I was just really excited that we had this opportunity to connect with you all today, because the purpose of this event that you're holding is really what's near and dear to our hearts, to make sure that our employees can come to work every day and feel that they are bringing their authentic self, that they don't necessarily have to, and using air quotes here, right, check that at the door. Because as we work from home, as we're in this more remote or hybrid environment, it's becoming a lot harder to leave anything that is happening in your home life there. So for us, it is just a continued effort to make sure that the virtual safe space that we are creating is really led by the voice of our employees and their everyday experiences. So I wanted to just give a quick overview of those 8 networks. I know we'll have Q&A later, so if we wanted to revisit anything, we can certainly do that, but I will go ahead and pass it over to my colleagues so that you can learn a little bit more about our Women's Network Plus, as well as the LGBT Plus network.
So Ashley, can I ask this question? So they
Yes.
each end with plus. So
Yes.
does that mean that you can be in more than one cross-sectional there? Is that what that means?
Yes. I'm glad you brought that up, because I meant to do that at the very beginning. So what we did is we added the plus to all of our networks quite a few years back as an open invitation for anyone in the company to join, right? So to be in Women's Network, you do not have to be a woman. To be an African American network, you do not have to be a Black employee. This was a way for us to say, while we have these 8 distinct communities that we're creating, you can have any background, any race or ethnicity, and join, even if you just want to learn, connect, and really contribute to the causes that these ERGs were working towards. So that is a huge distinction for us, and it has really allowed us to broaden our membership to be over 10,000 of our 16 to 17,000 employees across the world.
That's an amazing program, and it's built from learning, right?
Yes.
So you start the programs and then they learn as you grow.
Exactly.
Thank you.
All right, so we will transition now for our Women's Network with Gina Gabrielson, and then our LGBTQ network representatives here today, Carrie Nygaard and Lindsey Peru, to talk more about their networks and some of their initiatives in place.
Perfect, thank you. I think I'll start first. And so introduce myself, Gina Gabrielson. I am the VP of Client Solutions and Engagement for Health Systems, which is under our health and wellness platform, or if you have a Care credit card, that might be familiar. And that is a very long title, but essentially I'm responsible. It's a sales role, and I'm responsible for our overall health system acquisition and solution design strategy and our purchase volume goals. And when I think about, my history, I've been with Synchrony Care Credit for 4 years. I have an aquatic biology degree, which I clearly don't use. I vacation and dive, so I feel like I'm using it there. Born and raised in Minnesota, and my wife and I moved to Arizona to escape the winter about 6 years ago. So we go back for the holiday and see our family, but we're in and out of that snow and cold pretty quickly. Um, Synchrony to me with culture is so important in any company, right? And when I left my career that I'd been at for 13 years and then moved and uprooted our family, my question was, where am I going to find that culture and that fit? And Synchrony has become that home. And so if I think about the Women's Network, there's two couple things, but if I think about, the why am I involved there? And I'm also engaged in the African American Network. And Ashley, I'm glad you brought up women confronting racism, because that's something that's very near and dear to me, that I'm a very active participant in. But it also shows such a great collaboration and family feeling as you think about Synchrony, and that we can do things together and we're better together. But for me, the Women's Network, I'm passionate about talent. I'm passionate about development and creating an environment where everyone can bring their best self and unique self, and their differences to work. And how do we create that culture and environment and sustain it? So part of a couple things with the Women's Network, we focus on culture, we focus on community, continual learning, and career and communication. So simple, because we can keep all the 5 C's in there. But for me, my focus is within that career platform. Um, a little spoiler alert for our Synchrony family here that's on, but we're working on a career developmental program, really similar. We want to keep it simple, right? And you want to be able to have something that will continue and be ongoing and lift women up and let them have a seat at the table and ensure that we have confidence that we know we deserve that seat at the table. And how do we do that? How do we set that advocacy and those mechanisms in place? And so a few things that we're working on, it's super simple. It's called 30-5-1. It's basically 36 minutes a week. And what we're asking for is 30 minutes a week having coffee or conversation with a talented up and coming woman, 5 minutes a week congratulating a female colleague on a win or success, and 1 minute a week talking up a woman who had that win or to other colleagues around the company. So when you think about that, it's very intentional. It's simple, intentional, doesn't take a lot, but it's also really focused on that positive recognition and advocacy, which may turn into more. And how do we create different mechanisms that we all feel empowered to take our career in our own hand and be specific and intentional about that, and develop that confidence within all of us. So that's a few things with the Women's Network. And Ashley, you spoke a little bit about the women confronting racism. And I actually wrote a few, things. So when I think about that, and it's really morphed and it's been really organic. And we actually also within our platform have done a few other things that have spawned off of that, which has been really, really great. But the goal and the mission is to offer that safe space, promoting a more diverse workplace and empathetic culture through relationship building and shared knowledge of race-related issues. And for me, I'm an ally. My best friend is Black. And, being able to understand someone else's worldview and where they're coming from helps us all. It helps us all be way more efficient. It helps leaders be more effective. It helps businesses be more effective. And it helps us all be able to bring our authentic, unique self. If you noticed, I said my wife and I. That's not common for somebody to come out in business, so I'm told, to be very open about my wife and I. For me, I'm unapologetic about it because she's really awesome. She's over here on the corner if you see her picture. But that's what I think Synchrony does so well, is that we're able to collaborate and we're able to be ourselves, and it's okay. You can be unapologetic about who you are and how you come up. And I've really enjoyed that series. I don't know if you call it a series, but I think it's a family talk time where we can be real with each other, and it's a safe place, and you're able to speak your truth with no judgments, and also know that there will be a lack of closure, but we'll continue the conversation month over month, time over time. So those are a few things that the Women's Network is focused on. Also, just that involvement with African American Network and partnership. And I will hand it over to Carrie and Lindsey.
Thanks, Gina.
Thanks, Gina. So Carrie and I, first off, let me introduce myself. My name is Lindsey Peru. I'm the VP Compliance Specialty Solutions. I've been with Synchrony actually over 21 years. I started as a freshman in college, so like many people listening, I've been in very different roles, including collections, operations, surveillance, project management, and then I've been in compliance the last 7 years. I've also been on the national pillar for the LGBT plus network for over 6 years, primarily on the continual learning pillar. I joined the network because I wanted to find a place at work where I could utilize my skills to really make a difference in areas I felt passionate about. One of the great things about Synchrony is they really support and encourage their employees to become active and to take time to participate in our networks and network events and initiatives. And that's really something that's drawn me to Synchrony and made me proud of the company I work for. I'm presenting today with Carrie, so I'm going to pass it over to her so she can do a brief introduction of herself.
Thanks, Lindsey. I hope everyone can hear me okay. My name is Carrie Nygaard. I've actually been with Synchrony primarily my roles within Synchrony have been within the Human Resources Department, just progressively growing through the HR world, experiencing HR at different sites, different populations, and then just recently moved over to our legal investigations role. So very similar to human resources, we do a lot of employee investigations and just really kind of being that employee advocate when concerns are raised. I have also been with the LGBT network, it's probably been 5 or 6 years. I don't remember exactly when I started. Really got involved. I had a dear friend of mine who's also a Synchrony employee who was really struggling with coming out and really feeling like there was a lot of anxiety, and not just necessarily in the workplace, but also within his family. And, kind of experiencing some of that anxiety and that fear really drove me to be kind of this part of making a culture and an environment where, people can be themselves and not have that anxiety or, fear that that's going to hold them back in some way, or fear that, they're not going to be able to be seen as the same in the way they feel from a sexual orientation. So it was really important for me to just kind of go through that personal experience and want to be part of an environment where I can actually advocate for change and really kind of have that unique lens of making sure that we're doing all the right things so all of our employees can feel like they can be their authentic selves when they come to work. Want to start off really talking about the LGBT network and really what our mission is. So we do take a multi-pronged approach when we think about creating and supporting a positive work environment. We go through a lot of different career development and actually attract and hire. When it comes to LGBT talent, we like to educate, develop, and retain our existing talent, and making sure that we are ensuring that all of our network members have the right tools and resources to be successful in whatever it is that they want to do, whether that is finding a lateral position, maybe they need a promotion, or maybe they just want to broaden some skill sets or take on a temporary side project. We also do make sure that we are enhancing and promoting the health and well-being of all of our members. We're taking a progressive approach when it comes to our healthcare and making sure that we're being inclusive in the healthcare that we offer, specifically that those benefits are what our LGBT community is wanting and needing. And then also our community, partnering with the LGBT communities and marketplace around the globe, making sure that we're advocating for equality and providing help to those in need. So Shannon, if you want to go to the second slide. I'm just going to quickly cover our network. So like Lindsey had said, we are split up into a lot of different areas. I essentially own the professional development area and continual learning, along with some of the health and wellness. Lindsey does she owns all of the education and continual learning, and making sure that, we've got the right training in place, and, getting feedback from our members on what kind of training are they looking for. We also have our culture, where they really work with the structure of our hubs and working with associate engagement, working with the diversity networks. We have a communications leader, Fabulous, who runs all of our strategic communications. Our community is run by Michelle, and then of course our initiatives are run by Alex. But could be remiss if I didn't say we have a fantastic network leader, Heath Arnsberger, who makes this all running smoothly and puts it all together. So I'm going to turn it over to Lindsey to go over some of the training that we offer.
So Carrie, can I just ask a question before you move forward here? I'm really interested in the recruitment talent pipeline. So for students that are watching this, like early career interns, are interns also invited to learn about the ERGs and the programs?
Yeah, absolutely. And Ashley might be able to speak more in detail about that, but we definitely have a group in our LGBT network that visits schools, attends job fairs, and really kind of partners with that recruitment. And I don't know, Ashley, if you have any more specific details around how that works.
Yes, so I would say, as they come into the organization, we have introductory conversations that feature very similar to events like this, where we're just sharing the different work that's happening, showing them how to opt into our various networks. So down from the recruiting side all the way to them joining, we have consistent ways that we continue to share the value prop of being a member, and often see quite a few get engaged, even if they're just here for the summer.
Okay, that's terrific. And I know one of the things that Synchrony does so well is we try to encourage students when they are looking at companies, like creating their target lists, to find the companies that have more than just like a DEI page, right? A company that really has, put the thought and the work into what you're sharing here. And so this is exactly why we invited you to do the session with us. So thank you for touching on that.
Of course.
All right, if you want to flip to the next page. Okay, on this page, you'll see just a snapshot of some of the trainings that our team has developed and presented to the LGBT plus network, as well as across other networks and pillars. We really try to offer our training broader than just our LGBT network. You can see we cover a wide variety of topics and issues, including transgender, parents and allies, bisexuality awareness, and then the others listed on the page. All of these are relevant to the LGBT plus community and our allies. The trainings are created with speaker notes, and they're available to be utilized by other networks and in smaller sessions outside of our network-wide training events that we hold. We really encourage people to utilize these trainings and hold smaller sessions at the hub or site level. We thought it would be a good opportunity today to share a snippet from one of these trainings, Intersectionality, with this audience to give you guys an idea of how we engage and train on LGBT plus topics.
Wonderful.
So with that, if you want to flip to the next page, I'm excited to share the LGBT plus intersectionality training with you. On the next slide, you'll see that today we're going to discuss intersectionality and what is intersectionality, as well as how does it apply at the workplace. So, next page. What is intersectionality? So, to understand intersectionality, let's start by reviewing what we already know. Social categorizations apply to a given individual or group that sometimes lead to discrimination or disadvantage. These categorizations include, but are not limited to, race, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, and nationality. At intersection is a place where these things come together, which gives us intersectionality and how we identify. I'm going to flip to the next page. We're going to look at an example of this on this page. So you see Hannah, she's a Black woman. She deals with bias and discrimination for being a woman and for being Black. Next is Gina, who is a Hispanic disabled lesbian. She has to deal with systems of discrimination or advantage based on and disadvantage based on social categorizations for her gender, her race, her sexual orientation, and her disability. The overlap of these various social identities contribute to specific type of discrimination being experienced by Hannah and Gina. You can see and this explains how our experiences are shaped by more than just one piece of our identity. In the next slide, intersectionality is the intersection of social categories like race, class, gender that we just discussed, and how they apply to the group and where they overlap. It's important to understand intersectionality as our race, gender, class, sexuality, and so much more all inform our life experiences and help us define who we are. On the next few slides, Carrie's going to go into helping us understand intersectionality as well as the history behind it.
All right, thanks, Lindsay. So we've really tried to simplify the concept and the challenges of intersectionality. So if you click on, I think there's a couple of animations. Yeah, so we've got John here. So this is just simply an example. John is a striped round emoji and, you know, should obviously be proud of that identity. If you go to the next slide, we've got some people who, unfortunately, they don't like emojis, and also they don't like stripes. So John really is at risk of facing oppression, or maybe he's being prevented from having the same opportunities, freedom, and benefits as others. So go to the next slide. So luckily, you know, a lot of places have these diversity inclusion groups that really advocate for underrepresented members and ensuring that everyone's voice is heard. You know, we want to make sure opinions are considered and really value differences by creating an environment where people can feel comfortable bringing their full selves to work. And then next slide. But sometimes these groups, you know, these networks or liberation groups aren't really intersectional, which can create this competition. There could be a lack of communication or maybe a lack of transparency. And then the next slide. So diversity initiatives that center around, you know, all emojis or all stripes often do not consider the multidimensional impact of both emojis and stripes. So integrating intersectionality into organization practices and attitudes is different, but it's difficult, but it's also essential to just realizing equity for all. An intersectional lens really should be applied to both internal D&I efforts and external facing work. You know, at Synchrony, I think, and Ashley had mentioned it, that, you know, just recently we've added the plus symbol to all of our networks to really show that it isn't really this, you know, siloed approach. It's really this plus and inclusivity of bringing a lot of intersections into each of the networks. All right, so, you know, so we saw really the definition of intersectionality, and I understand that this is a really simple way of understanding the concept, but understanding intersectionality means understanding that oppressions are interlinked and cannot be solved alone. You know, the concept of intersectionality has always existed and has really kind of become a buzzword. And then I do want to cover just a really quick court case back in the 70s that really sets this to home. So feminists and social justice theorists and activists were more broadly had this concept of intersecting social categories for some time. So in 1976, Emma DeGraffenreid Reed and other Black women sued General Motors for discrimination, arguing that the company segregated its workforce by race and gender. So essentially what was going on was Blacks did one set of jobs and whites did another set of jobs. So women were welcome to apply for some jobs while men were only suitable for others. So where this became a problem is that there was really no opportunity for Black women to come into this organization. So what had happened was they had jobs for Black men, but those jobs might have been on the factory floor, for example. And then they had jobs for white women who maybe they were in a more administrative or secretarial role. But neither the Black jobs nor the women's jobs were appropriate for a Black woman. So since since a Black woman is neither a male or white. So obviously seems very evident to us now, but what was really kind of surprising is, the US District Court found that because General Motors was hiring women and Black people, that there was no foundation for discrimination committed by the company, asserting that the Black women were not able to combine their race and gender claims into one claim. It's just very interesting to see how far we've come from just having, Black people and or women and just making it a uniform group with uniform experiences, and that in fact experiences within all groups are widely varied and very unique. And then the next slide. It was this case that was led by the Black feminist lawyer and scholar. Her name was Kimberly Williams Crenshaw. She began theorizing intersectionality, and she's actually credited with coining the term in 1989 in a paper as really a way to explain the oppression against Black women. So that was really just a quick snippet of our intersectionality training. I'm going to turn it back over to Lindsey.
Thanks, Carrie. So to end this session, we thought it would be great for us to wrap the training, showing you guys a short video of our employees, sharing how they identify and how Synchrony really embraces and celebrates diversity. I'm going to flip to the next page. May have to
play it with audio.
I have to put the audio on to capture the computer audio.
Just give me 1 second to zoom back.
Shannon, I think if you're trying to run it, if you turn your camera off, there'll be more bandwidth for that.
No, I'm just trying to use my phone volume since my computer mic's not working. Just give me 1 second.
Okay. And Carrie, thank you for bringing in the legal side of that. I know that part of your role is legal investigations, and I think putting it in that framework, takes it to an extra level too, right? It gives us the background and gives us the understanding of where we're going with all of this, and knowing that it's something the company is paying attention to. Again, speaks to who Synchrony is and what they're trying to share.
And I think intersectionality.
This is where we were having fun earlier, talking about how technology works. Great.
That's a fairly broad question.
Turn that up.
A cisgender female.
You can say I'm a gamer, I'm a nerd. How do I identify myself? That's a fairly broad question.
A cisgender female.
You can say I'm a gamer, I'm a nerd.
Lesbian.
A gay lawyer. Identify myself as a father first.
Asexual, an atheist, hopefully a friend to a lot of people. I'm a cisgender queer male.
Identify as a Synchrony employee.
In my experiences, I've always been the minority, like in every situation, right? Like I would be not the only black kid in the classroom, like the only black kid in school.
You know, it was easy to pick on me. And I personally felt it. You know, I went to school some days afraid, like if someone gonna, come for me.
Well, I really started to realize that I didn't identify as straight. And growing up in a small town, that was really difficult for me to do. So that's a big part of who I am today, because I know how hard it can be to be different.
And the thought of being my authentic self, being out as a gay man, was something that was just absolutely unheard of.
Basically, I was being told, simply based on the clothing that I was wearing, that I was too gay.
Being asexual, I've gotten like, well, that isn't real, it doesn't exist, that's, a medication problem or a temporary thing.
Well, I've had people outright say that I don't believe you or you're lying. Why would I lie about being gay?
When you're looking at someone, you never know what they're going through, what they went through.
I mean, you can look at me and, first impressions, you will have a certain impression of me. Until you actually get to know me, you're not going to know if that impression is right or not. So it's respecting not just who that person presents as in their appearance and their clothes and skin tone and everything else, their voice, but who are they actually on the inside?
And when I speak to everyone, I like to find out who they are and do my best to support that so that they can be happy and have fun as well.
I really want people to be treated equally and fairly.
We can be our open, authentic selves with all the different facets of our identity for who we are. And it's not only welcomed, but it's celebrated.
And for me, I just want people to know that it is perfectly okay to be you.
Thank you, Shannon. We thought that video was a good way to end the chat.
So can I ask, is that something that, actually, I think Shannon, if you put yourself on mute.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yep, perfect. Yeah, we did this. Well, actually, still put it on mute. Okay. So my question was, so that's a wonderful video, and I think it would be great to share. If it's not something that's like behind a wall or something on your website, if you want to put that link in the chat, then if students also who are using this later want to watch the video, it's really powerful. There's so much great information in there. I would love to hear, is Alyssa still on?
Hi, yes, I am.
Hi, Alyssa. So you said when we first started that you were an intern.
That is correct.
Was that last summer, or are you going to be an incoming intern?
So I'm currently an intern through my college campus at Synchrony at the Digital Technology Center at our campus.
At Stanford?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about the interview process. When you were first looking at Synchrony, not so much the kind of questions or any of that, but when you were first looking at Synchrony, were you able to tell through the process the inclusiveness of the company? Did you actually feel as if that was part of who Synchrony is? And I don't want you to say anything here that would make you feel uncomfortable, but I guess I'm just looking for the student's point of view, like how you found this information.
I would definitely say that I felt it was inclusive, especially since I was a bit nervous as a female student, like kind of applying for a technology-based role, and just knowing that it was a lot of the interns that already worked here were male. It was a little bit scary for me, I would say, just like kind of thinking of applying for a role like that, and then getting into the technical role and interviewing with people. Everyone was really supportive and friendly, and was like willing to talk to me and answer any questions I had. So I felt like in that way it was really inclusive.
Okay, Wonderful. And then did you have training? I know your internship is a little bit different, right? Because you're doing it through the semester.
So we were provided trainings when we started, like virtual trainings that we were done on the Synchrony website that we were given through the DTC. So those were the trainings that we had. Yeah.
Okay. And Shannon, this might be a good question for you. So just in general, because, you know, one of the wonderful things about working with you is that, you know, you're on employer panels and all that. So you see different companies, the way that they do their support. How do you suggest that students find out, you know, what a company's real culture is as far as inclusiveness?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there are certainly a couple different things that you can do. One is just take a look at the company's website, see if they do have a dedicated page and space on diversity and inclusion, and if they have any employee testimonials that are a part of that webpage. To give you some insight and direct information from employees on their experience and their environment in working for that organization. I also think LinkedIn can be a great source as well, whether it's connecting with that company's LinkedIn and viewing some of the material that they post there, or if it's connecting with employees at that company on LinkedIn and just connecting with them, asking questions about their experience with the organization, their role, if you are looking for a specific type of position, asking questions about what it is that they do, and if they feel they have that sense of community and support outside of the day-to-day work that they do and being a part of that organization. And through some of those interactions and conversations in more of that virtual sense, you can certainly get a feel for the company. But if they're in person, don't be afraid to go up and ask some of those questions in connecting with employers at career fairs or at student group sessions like we're doing today.
Excellent. Does anybody on my team or anybody want to ask any questions at the moment? So Ashley, if JD, were you about to ask something? No. Okay. So Ashley, can I ask? So I love the concept where you were talking about groups within groups, right? And the women confronting racism. When all of that was happening, was there also a feeling of anybody at the company who wanted to know more information about this? Did they need to go to the group, or is there a way that you share the information with other employees who are not necessarily part of the groups?
Yes, so
Really a question for anybody.
Yeah, no, this is a very great question. I think it's also kind of telling to some of the stuff that Shannon was just sharing, because our response around that time was really telling of how transparent our leadership team wanted to be and how supportive they were. So the first thing that we actually did the first week of June 2020 was we held a week of solidarity for the entire organization. And across those 5 days, we had a number of different events that were open to all employees, led by our CEO. They were led by Black leaders across the organization, open and transparently sharing stories of what it was like to be Black in America, and kind of getting that, you know, opening the window or opening the door for just learning more. And then from there, what we also had was our, as I mentioned, our AAN Plus, holding a lot of just really what you can consider almost office hours for the organization, right? So there would just be open sessions where if you wanted to join, if you had a question, if you just wanted to space to listen, we created that for the entire week and layered onto it a digital repository of resources that has been evolving over the past 2 years. So that had anything from, you know, some of the historical articles that you would see, you know, for example, when we had the intersectionality piece here and taking it back to law, right? Some of our resources were showing, you know, you go back hundreds of years, what are those things that really created the foundation for systemic racism in America? We also had different trainings that were made available to us through our learning management system that actually last year we made one mandatory that gave everyone an opportunity to say, hey, we know that as an organization, we are super focused on diversity. We talk about our networks, but this is the proper time in society for us to all pause and make sure that we understand what diversity really means. So it really what I would say covered the building blocks of diversity. So not just talking about race and ethnicity or just background, it covered things like intersectionality. It covered things of, certain terminology that you would see used in different communities and how you can help to make change. So I think, the mix of having our leaders be the ones that are at the forefront, starting these conversations, hitting pause for the entire organization to open the door to have transparent, question sharing, experience sharing, storytelling, and then layering it on with resources that if you needed to do more or learn more, you had it there on demand. And just the continued events that we had from there, either led by the D&I office or by our networks. And then I would say, similar to Women Confronting Racism coming in together the way that it did, a lot of our departments across Synchrony also created mini D&I groups. So let's say, and I'll just say technology because we were just talking about it, maybe technology wanted to focus on some things for the employees within that part of the organization. So we had a couple of people across the business spearheading it to say, hey, my department needs to have, open sharing circles, right? Because we feel that the diversity that sits within our function probably needs a little bit more conversation around what the rest of the company is talking about. So I will say it was very interesting to be on the team at the time. We were a team of 5, but we literally could say that we had hundreds of people across the organization doing our work. And I think it all started with that initial week of solidarity that really allowed us to double down on our commitment that we already had as an organization.
And, to your point of you raised the topics, but you also gave those additional resources. I think it was early in the beginning where you said you were providing like resources for families to take home and talk to their family members about, right?
Yes.
So, paying attention to what's happening in the world. But then, when you go to work, you need to put your head down and do your work too. You need to be able to kind of combine that, who I am, what's happening in life, with also I have responsibilities for what I'm doing. So it sounds like you gave people that space and do it regularly on how to bring your full self to work, but also, to know that there are things like if you need support, it's there.
Exactly. And I think, one thing that I would layer on that I think was mentioned at another part here is, going into the pandemic and working from home. And, as we were thinking through the benefits that we provide, as Carrie was talking about, but also down to the focus we did on mental health as an organization. When you have all these things going on in society, if we're going to commit as an organization to total well-being, what we had to do was lean in on those diversity conversations so that we can have that added layer of comfort. So it really was just a continued, I'll say, evolution of how we were allowing people to feel that their whole self was represented in our organization.
Right. Well, I just want to be cognizant of everybody's time because I know I have, I've got 1,000 questions that I'd love to keep talking with you about. What I would love to do is just see if there's anything else that anybody wanted to share. I just want to thank the Synchrony team for coming and putting for so much time and just being so honest with all of us and putting yourself out there to share all of this information. I want to thank you all. And for the students who are watching this later, because we know that this is going to be used as a resource for students, is Synchrony is a company that, wants you to know who they are. Right. So when you are thinking of interviewing there, looking at jobs there, it's who you are that they want to come to the table. You don't need to be anybody other than their self. So any final thoughts?
The only other thing that I would say, Kathy, is for any students that watch this later on, if you want to connect with us, please do on LinkedIn. We'd be happy to get in touch with some of you, get to know you, and have one-off conversations about your interests, about what we discussed today. So don't be afraid if you weren't able to attend to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to meet with you and talk to you at a different time.
So Shannon, do you mind if you just put your email? Because I think it's best that the student groups, if they want to start the conversation, start with you. If you pop your email into the chat.
Sure, absolutely happy to do so.
And Alyssa, thank you for joining us as a student.
Thank you so much for hosting this. I really enjoyed it.
All right. Thank you, everybody. It's only Thursday, but I'm going to say have a wonderful weekend anyway.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you. Trisha,
Thank
you can
you.
stop.